Hola mis amigos, Jennifer here. Welcome to our channel, to Gringos on the Golf. I want to thank you for joining us for this episode as I present our July 2024 budget. I apologize as this one might be a little bit longer than it should be, but I decided it was best to break out some budget items and go into a little bit more detail on them. But we'll get into that as we move through the slides, so let's get into it right away. Our total budget for the month was 75,273 pesos, or 4,072 US dollars, or 5,630 Canadian dollars. And you can see here that I put some figures without two trips that we took. Without the trips, the total of our budget would have been 21,946 Mexican pesos, 1,187 US dollars, and 1,642 Canadian dollars. And I want to explain the reason I did this is because with Daryl away in visiting family in Canada, I felt that this month's budget would reflect roughly how much a single female living in Mexico would spend. Of course, this isn't exactly, and everybody is different, and of course it still includes some of Daryl's expenses as well. But again, it's just a rough estimate, and that's how I wanted to present it. So let's go into each budget item. First is rent, 7,000 pesos, 379 US dollars, or 524 Canadian dollars. Groceries were 2,232 Mexican pesos, 121 US dollars, or 167 Canadian dollars. This is what I spent on groceries this month, but I want to remind you that Daryl made me several meals. He filled the freezer full of stews, soups, and chili. It's been 3 weeks and I barely put a dent in that freezer. He made me so much. So though without those meals, I probably would have spent more on groceries, I'm also very confident that a person could spend between 400 and 500 pesos a week on groceries, or 2,000 pesos a month, and still eat very well. You just have to be more strict with yourselves than what we are. And that, of course, is just my opinion. So dining out, I spent 1,603 Mexican pesos, 87 US dollars, and 120 Canadian dollars. I feel that this is a tad bit higher than what I would normally spend in a month eating out by myself, because like the very beginning of this budget month, a tree fell down a block away from us and took out the CFE, the power lines. So we were without power for 21 hours. And I had just been to the market and I did not want my food to spoil, so I didn't want to open the fridge. I was not sure how long we were going to be without power, so I didn't want to open the fridge. So I had a couple of meals out. I actually used Uber Eats, I think, but whatever, that doesn't matter. So I had a couple more meals eating out that I probably would not have done if the power had not gone out. But even at that, I don't think that's, very much. I did an average of what a meal was based on this budget, and it was less than 300 pesos per meal. And I'd spent a little bit more than 300 pesos on my highest meal and 50 pesos on my cheapest meal. So I don't know if that gives you some idea of what you can spend on meals here. We did at some point, I guess early on, put some gas in the car, 500 Mexican pesos, 27 US dollars, or 37 Canadian dollars. Though I didn't take CC to the vet, I am switching his food back to Veterinary food. He's been scratching a lot, and the vet feels that it's because he's allergic to his food. So I'm slowly integrating the vet food in with his diet that he's currently on. So besides the dry dog food, I bought wet dog food as well. I give him wet dog food twice a day with his pills. So 609 pesos, 33 US dollars, and 46 Canadian dollars on dog food. Power and water this month. We pay 500 pesos each month for water. And of course, the power bill only comes every 2 months. It did come this month. It was 961 pesos. So 1,461 pesos total, 79 US dollars, 109 Canadian dollars. Cell phones, 800 Mexican pesos, 43 US dollars, or 60 Canadian. My dog is gonna freak out at any moment. Let's just press on, try to outrun him. That's a little bit more than what we pay in a month. And this, of course, does include Daryl's, but the extra is from mine. It's higher because we were traveling, so I was using Google Maps, I was using Uber and Didi, plus the power outage, I was using cell data instead of Wi-Fi because we had no Wi-Fi with no power. So I used a little bit more this month. No groomer costs this month. Personal purchases. During the power outage, I went and bought a mobile recharger so that I could still have a cell phone. That was 350 Mexican pesos, 19 US dollars, and 26 Canadian. Nothing on propane. Though I don't mind driving in Mexico, I can't park in our tiny little garage. Even Daryl needs guidance to park in our little garage. So we just felt it was best just to take taxis rather than drive while he was gone. So I spent 440 Mexican pesos, 24 US dollars, and 33 Canadian dollars on taxis. I did buy some acid reflux medicine for 400 Mexican pesos, 22 US or 30 Canadian. Okay, so Amazon, I spent 1,200 Mexican pesos, 65 US dollars, or 90 Canadian. So, but on to the extras. Pardon me, as I just double check some things on the budget. Okay, so moving on to the extras. So little Jorge and middle Jorge both had a birthday this month, and we spent 2,250 pesos, 122 US, and 168 Canadian on both their birthdays. We weren't able to celebrate together with them, of course, but we still wanted to acknowledge their birthdays. So shout out to them and happy birthday, Jorge's. I had to go to the dentist. I lost a filling. So back here, not sure you could see that, but I lost it last year too and got it filled last year. So I'm having a feeling that I should have just saved the 1,200 pesos, 65 US or 90 Canadian, and had the tooth pulled, because now it is uber sensitive and I can't eat on it, and I'm gonna probably end up having it pulled anyways. So I'm afraid that might have been wasted money. Continuing on with extras, let's start with the City of Mexico budget. So the total of that trip was 22,373 pesos, 1,210 US dollars, or 1,673 Canadian dollars. And I've decided to break out the trips into category such as food, lodging, transportation, etc. I just felt like this would give people a better idea of what we're spending our money on our trips, rather just having the trip and the total cost. So we spent 10,294 pesos on food, 557 US dollars, 770 Canadian dollars. We spent 9,284 pesos on Airbnbs, 502 US dollars, we'll say 700 Canadian dollars. Transportation, this includes taxis or ride shares, both taxis and ride shares, such as Didi, Uber, taxis, and it also includes the Happy Bus. So from Veracruz to Mexico City, and then my return twice. So Daryl and I took the bus from Jalapa to Mexico City, and then I alone returned, and then I alone will go back to Mexico City, and then the both of us will return to Jalapa from Mexico City. And I had to buy a ticket for CC. They didn't charge us when Daryl and I went together, and I think that's because he doesn't take up a seat when it's Daryl and I in a seat and him with us. When I traveled alone with the dog, they wanted to charge him a seat, and I managed to get home without paying for that. But to go back to Mexico City, I just paid the extra 125 pesos, so we have the seat to ourselves, which is better. Anyways, okay. So total on transportation was 1,979 pesos, 107 US dollars, or 148 Canadian dollars. Some sightseeing costs include the Freedom Museum, which was 336 pesos, and we took one of those hop-on, hop-off buses. That's 240 pesos each. It's about 2.5 hours per circuit, so depending on what circuit you choose, and you can hop on and off different circuits. And I think that it's either 24 hours or 48 hours, the 240 pesos. I forget. Anyways, that was, so total sightseeing was 816 pesos, 44 US dollars, and 61 Canadian dollars. There is no others in the other column. So then we'll go on to the costs for the Canada trip. And there may be, depending on how much money Daryl spends on food and other things, there may be a little bit more to this Canadian budget on the next month's budget. But we'll worry about that next month. This month, he spent a total of 30,954 Mexican pesos, 1,674 US dollars, or 2,315 Canadian dollars. That breaks down to, for food, 5,488 pesos, to say 300 US dollars, 410 Canadian dollars. For lodging, he ended up having to leave Manitoba early. He was taking a train from Saskatoon to Edmonton to return to Alberta after his stay in Flin Flon, but he didn't know how he was getting from Flin Flon to Saskatoon. So he didn't know if somebody was going to drive him or what was going to happen. So what he ended up doing was taking the bus but the bus doesn't run every day, so he had to take the bus on a Wednesday to catch his train on the Friday. So he had to spend 2 nights in Saskatoon until his train left, because the bus leaves on Wednesdays from Creighton, Saskatchewan, but Creighton and Flin Flon Creighton is in Saskatchewan, Flin Flon's in Manitoba, but they're border towns. They border each other. So he spent 4,374 pesos on the Saskatoon hotel, or $237 US, 327 Canadian dollars. Transportation includes airfare, the bus from Manitoba, Saskatchewan the Manitoba, Saskatchewan border to Saskatoon. And that includes his Via Rail ticket from Saskatoon to Edmonton. So, total of 20,147 pesos. We'll say 1,100 US dollars and 1,500 Canadian dollars. Nothing on sightseeing. On others, total of, okay, so I kind of put his spending, we gave him some cash at the Mexico City airport, so they would have some Canadian cash when he landed, because he had no means of paying for anything. He had no valid bank card or anything. And then he bought some travel size items here. And then he spent some money at the dollar store, and I have no idea what that's on, so I just put it under other. The dollar store in Canada, obviously. So that was a total of 944 pesos, or 51 US dollars, 70 Canadian dollars. So that's his Canada trip so far anyways. So a little recap of the total budget. 74,773 Mexican pesos, or 4,045 US dollars, 5,593 Canadian dollars. Gracias, mis amigos, para mirar, y hasta luego.